Today's lesson is Plus Talk, a trip to the hair salon. Hello, everyone. I'm Roger.
And I'm Helen.
And my hair is getting kind of ratty looking. It looks kind of terrible, so I think I need to get myself a haircut. But I'm not going to go to a hair salon because my hair has been thinning for many years. I think it's pretty useless to go to a hair salon. I'm going to go to the barber shop and just get a trim. But some people still have some hope with their hair, and they might head to a hair salon.
Yes, well, I still have a little bit of hope, and I want to go to a hair salon soon because I have some pieces of gray hair, strands of gray hair coming out that I need to dye black. So that's something that I want to get done professionally at a hair salon.
Okay, so today, of course, we've got a couple of conversations. We're choosing a suitable haircut, and then we're also going to spend an afternoon in curlers. That's what Iris is going to do. But in this particular case, we're going to be talking about the stylist and Ian. And Ian's going in just for a suitable haircut at the hair salon. So let's start with that conversation, choosing a suitable haircut. Let's listen to the conversation between the stylist and Ian.
3. Choosing a suitable haircut. Ian is at the salon waiting for the stylist to finish with another customer.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Please follow me. Sit down, please. What can I do for you today? I'd like an undercut. I had something like this in mind. I'm not sure that would be the best haircut for your face shape. Undercuts tend to suit people with squarer faces. Oh, really? What would you recommend for me?
The stylist takes out his comb and starts to part Ian's hair.
For rounder faces, I usually recommend side parts. If we leave the hair longer on the top, it'll elongate your face. See? You're right. That does look good. Can you still shave the sides, though? Of course.
大家好，第一部分我们看到名词 celebrity， 意思是明星或是名人，像是 Julia took pictures of many celebrities when she visited Hollywood last year. Julia 去年去好莱坞的时候拍了许多明星的照片，或是 Hundreds of celebrities supported the organization that fights world hunger. 好几百位名人支持这个对抗全球饥饿问题的组织。另外补充一个同义词 icon, I-C-O-N, icon, 指知名且具代表性的人物。举例来说Lady Gaga has become a pop culture icon. 女神卡卡已成为大众文化的代表人物。或者 Bands like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones are icons of the music industry. 像披头士还有滚石乐团在音乐产业都是很具有代表性的。接下来我们看到单字 recommend， 这个字是动词，指推荐或是建议。例如Carl's school counselor recommended that he apply to several different universities. Carl 学校的指导老师建议他申请几所不同的大学。或是 Nathan recommended that his sister take her money out of the stock market. Nathan 建议他姐姐把资金从股市中抽回来。另外补充这个字的名词 recommendation， 指推荐或是建议。例如 I'm looking for a book to read.Do you have any recommendations? 我在找本书来读，你有什么推荐吗？又或者说 If you don't know what to order, ask the server for a recommendation. 如果你不知道点什么菜，请服务生推荐吧。再来我们看到动词 elongate， 指使变长或是使延长。例如 Dan rejects the idea that certain exercises can elongate specific muscle groups.Dan 不认同某些运动可以拉长特定肌肉群的概念。最后我们看到单字 shave， 这个字是动词，指剃去毛发或是刮胡子。像是 A lot of athletes today shave all the hair off their heads. 现今有很多运动员把整头头发全部剃光。或是 A lot of people tell me that I look good with a beard, but a few insist that I shave it. 很多人跟我说我留胡子好看，但有些人坚持要我剃掉。 另外补充一个含有 shave 在内的片语 close shave. Close, C-L-O-S-E, close shave, 指侥幸脱险或是幸免于难。我们可以说 We had a close shave with disaster when our boat nearly hit the rocks. 我们的船差点撞上礁石，不过我们侥幸逃过一劫。或是 Andy had a close shave when he stepped out into the road without looking and was almost hit by a car. Andy 在鬼门关前走了一遭，因为他没看路就走到马路上，差点被车撞。
So in this part of the lesson, Ian is at the salon waiting for the stylist to finish with another customer. So the stylist has finished with that customer and he comes over to Ian and says, "Sorry to keep you waiting. Please follow me." So he leads Ian to the styling chair. "Sit down, please. What can I do for you today?"
Right, that's what a hairstylist will do. When you enter a hair salon, they'll help you out. Of course, lots of times when you go into a hair salon, you have to wait your turn because the people ahead of you are not done yet. And so they should apologize to keep you waiting. "Sorry to keep you waiting. Yes, indeed, please come with me. Have a seat. What can I do for you today? What kind of haircut or hairstyle would you like?" And Ian says, "Well, I'd like an undercut." And he pulls out his phone and shows the stylist a picture of a celebrity with that kind of haircut. I had something like this in mind. So that's an undercut here. And of course, he gives a photo as an example to the stylist, and it's a picture of a celebrity, and that just refers to a famous person, especially someone who is an actor or a singer.
Yes, so an undercut is a style usually for men where the bottom part of the head is cut really short. It's almost shaved to the skin, and then the top part is a bit longer. And Ian saw this hairstyle worn by a celebrity. A celebrity is someone who is famous. So a celebrity could be an actor or a musician, somebody that is very popular. So he got the idea of getting the same haircut. And that's something that often happens to us. We might see a hairstyle on a star and we want to look like that person. And we think, well, if we get the same hairstyle, we might look like them. But actually, that's not true because we have different shaped faces or we just don't look like that person at all. So the stylist looks at the picture and says, He studies Ian's face for a moment. And then he says, "I'm not sure that would be the best haircut for your face shape."
Right, so that's the kind of style that Ian wants. And, of course, he probably doesn't have a square face here. Maybe has more of a round, longer face. So the stylist thinks, that style, an undercut, is not suitable for you. It's more suitable for people with squarer faces who have more definite lines where their jaws and the sides of their head join up. They're more angular, whereas a round face would probably be more suitable for a different kind of hairstyle.
Yes, and Ian says, "Oh, really? What would you recommend for me?" So Ian didn't realize that that hairstyle wouldn't suit him, and he asks for the stylist's recommendation by saying, "What would you recommend for me?" Recommend means to suggest or to advise someone to do something. Often when we go to a restaurant, we might ask the waiter, the server, "What would you recommend on this menu? What is good to order?" So Ian is asking for the stylist's recommendation.
And the stylist takes out his comb and starts to part Ian's hair. When you part someone's hair, of course, you send some hair to the left and some hair to the right so that there's a part there. And the stylist says, "Well, for rounder faces, I usually recommend side parts." That means you don't part it right in the middle. You part your hair to the side, either the right side or the left side.
Right, so the stylist is being very careful with his words. He doesn't say, "Well, because you have a round face, Ian," he says, "for rounder faces, I usually recommend side parts." And then he says, "If we leave the hair longer on the top, it'll elongate your face." See? So he does that. He does something with Ian's hair to make him see the effect of a side part and shows him that this hairstyle will actually elongate his face. To elongate means to become longer or to make something longer or seem longer.
Exactly. So he thinks that this particular part on the side with long hair on top will elongate Ian's face, which I guess is a good thing. And Ian says, you're right, that does look good. And then Ian has another request. Can you still shave the sides, though? And the stylist says, of course. Now, of course, men grow hair on their faces, so they need to shave their beards and mustaches from time to time. And women also shave hair off their bodies in their armpits sometimes and on their arms and things like that if they have more body hair than they'd care to have. So in this particular case, he needs to get a shave for the sides of his head there, so that will be a very unique hairstyle as well.
Right, because he had originally wanted the undercut, which would have included the sides shaved or cut very closely to the scalp, and he still wants that. He really likes that idea, so he asks the stylist to still shave the sides of his head so that he will have a close shave on all over the sides of his head.
Sounds good. He's going to be highly spiffy in just a couple of minutes. Okay, that brings us to the end of conversation number 3. Now we're going to go on to conversation number 4, and we're talking about Iris now, and she's going to spend the afternoon in curlers. Let's listen in to her conversation with the stylist.
4. Spending an afternoon in curlers. Iris is waiting for the stylist to finish putting curlers in her hair. So, is there anything I need to know about caring for a perm? I've never had one before.
Oh, really? Well, they're pretty easy to care for. The most important thing is not to wash your hair until the perm has really set in. That usually takes 2 days.
Okay, so I shouldn't wash my hair for 2 days. Is there anything else?
Yes, you should also avoid combing your hair for the first 24 hours. That's basically it.
That sounds easy enough. And how long will it stay curly for?
That depends on your hair type, but perms usually last anywhere between 3 to 6 months.
So the title of part 4 of the conversation is Spending an Afternoon in Curlers. A curler is a tube that's usually made of plastic, sometimes of metal, that you wrap your hair around to make it curly. So some people, especially a lot of Asians, they're born with straight hair. But if you want curly hair, then you need to do something to your hair to make it curly. And one way is to use curlers. And these are the tubes that you wrap your hair around so that when you take the tubes out, the curlers out, your hair will be curly. So Iris is waiting for the stylist to finish putting curlers in her hair. And Iris says, so, is there anything I need to know about caring for a perm? I've never had one before. So here, Iris is getting a perm or permanent. A permanent is something that you do at the hairstylist who puts chemicals in your hair so that your hair will be not permanently, not forever curly or wavy, but for a pretty long period of time. It could be 3 months, 4 months. So you use curlers for 2 reasons. One would be to get your hair curly at home after you washed it, and the curls may stay for a day or 2. But if you use curlers as part of a permanent, then the curls will stay for months.
Exactly. So like Helen said, sometimes straight hair can be boring. People have straight hair. I think it looks great myself, but some people get bored with it, so they want to make their hair a little curly or a little wavy. So, of course, in order to do that, you're going to need to get a perm or at least put some curlers in your hair. And so, indeed, she wants to know if there's anything she needs to know about caring for a perm. And she says, I've never had one before. I've never had a perm before. And the stylist says, oh, really? You've never had a perm before? Well, they're pretty easy to care for. They're pretty easy to take care of. The most important thing is not to wash your hair until the perm has really set in. Here, to set in means to establish itself, and it needs to take some time before it's totally done, before it's all set up, and then you can probably wash your hair. But you need to wait a little while so that it can set in or be more permanent.
Right. For the phrase to set in, I could also say December is the month when winter sets in. So that means December is the month when winter begins to take effect, and from that moment on, it will last for a long time. So Iris is waiting for the perm to set in, to start taking effect, and to start working for a long time. And to do that, she should not wash her hair beforehand.
Indeed, and again, it usually takes 2 days, and Iris says, okay, so I shouldn't wash my hair for 2 days. I understand that. Is there anything else? Is there anything else I need to know about taking care of my perm? And the stylist says, yes, you should also avoid combing your hair for the first 24 hours. A comb, of course, is a device that you use to straighten your hair by moving it through your hair, over your head, and then if you have thicker or longer hair, then you can brush your hair.
Yes, and the stylist says that she shouldn't brush, or actually, she shouldn't comb her hair for the first 24 hours, which means after she gets her perm, she shouldn't comb her hair for the first day. Probably because that's going to ruin the curls. It's going to straighten her hair if she combs her hair. And then the stylist says that's basically it. It's really not that difficult to care for a perm. It's just a bunch of things that you shouldn't do, really. You shouldn't comb your hair too early, and you shouldn't wash your hair too early, and that's about it.
And I suppose she should probably avoid going swimming as well, right?
Oh, probably, yeah, if she had plans to go swimming. So Iris, probably because she's never had a perm before, was surprised that it's actually really easy to care for a perm. So she says, that sounds easy enough. And how long will it stay curly for? She wants to know how long the permanent will last.
Right, and remember, there are different ways you can wear your hair. Of course, straight hair is very common here in Taiwan, as you said, Helen. And, well, you said it's common for Asians. Certain kinds of Asians, it's pretty common, straight hair. I was born with fairly wavy hair, okay? And my daughter has wavy hair as well. So we don't really need to get perms if we want to change our hairstyle at all. And in this particular case, though, Iris wants her hair to be curly. And so that's more curly than wavy. So you've got straight, wavy, and curly. And curly means it loops around quite a bit. Wavy means it doesn't really loop at all, but it's not straight.
Right. Curly is the opposite of straight. It means forming rings or circles. It's very rare for East Asian people to have curly hair. They may have wavy hair, but curly hair is quite rare. But there is also a type of perm that gives you very straight hair. So there's a straight perm because some people don't have very straight hair, which is something that they want. So they get a particular type of perm so that their hair can be very, very straight.
Exactly. And of course, lots of men just shave it all off if they're going bald. They're tired of looking in the mirror and seeing that weird hairstyle on their head with hair falling off the top. So they just shave it all off and have the bald look, which is actually quite stylish. And I'm thinking about doing that myself as well. But in any case here, she wants to have curly hair. She wants to have curls. So she wants to know how long it will stay curly for until she needs to get another permanent later on.
Yes, and the stylist says that depends on your hair type, but perms usually last anywhere between 3 to 6 months. So it does depend on hair type. In the past, when I got perms, they never lasted more than 3 months. They basically lasted 2 months, which means that I spent a lot of money on the perm, and that's what made me stop getting perms because they just didn't last. So I had a particular type of hair that didn't take to perms very well.
Did you like having your perm, Helen?
I liked the perms, yes, but I think they're not very good for your hair because they contain a lot of chemicals, even though probably the chemicals are safer these days. But if you want to avoid chemicals, then it's probably better not to get perms or even to dye your hair if you can avoid it. But that's just me.
That's me too. I think you shouldn't put those nasty chemicals in your hair for the sake of looks. You should be proud of what you look like. So if you got straight hair looks great. You could always braid it or even cut it short or leave it long. You've got lots of choices, even with straight hair or wavy hair or curly hair. I think the au naturel look is the best. Okay, that brings us to the end of our conversation for today, or at least our explanation of these conversations. So now it's time to listen to our Chinese teacher, who I think actually has a perm.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。先补充一下，我没有烫卷发，我把头发烫直咯。好，我们来看看课文第一部分的对话呢。Ian 他想要剪削边头，他拿出手机秀了一张明星的照片给发型师看，那他就说 I had something like this in mind。 好，意思就是说我想要像这种的。 Have in mind 就是表达想着打算，那我们常常会用 have something in mind 来表达心中有某种想法，或者是考虑啊、策划、盘算着某事物。假设你在买东西的时候，你就觉得这个老板推荐的东西太贵了，那这时候老板可能会问说What price range do you have in mind？ 那你心中的价格范围是多少？也就是在问说，那你预算是多少呢？好，接着发型师解释说，削边头通常会适合脸型比较方正的人，那么脸型比较圆的人，他通常就会建议侧分。他说If we leave the hair longer on the top, it'll elongate your face. 如果我们把头顶的头发留长一点，就可以修长你的脸哦。Elongate 这个字就是表达使变长、使延长的意思。那我们这边是要介绍 if 引导条件句的用法。好， if 引导条件副词子句呢，就可以表达说某个条件成立时会产生某个结果。那这个用法可以描述现在或是未来可能发生的情况。它的句型是 if 主词加动词，逗号，主词加上 will, can, may 或是其他助动词，再加原形动词，去表达说如果怎么样怎么样，什么将会怎么样，可以怎么样，或是可能怎么样。好，那么 if 子句呢，你也可以把它摆到主要子句后方。只是要特别注意哦 ，if 子句的动词我们要用现在简单式，而不是未来式。那么主要子句你可以用助动词 will, can, may, should 等等去搭配原形动词。像这样的句型，我们就常常用来推测未来的结果。例如 ，If it doesn't rain tonight, we will have a barbecue in the yard. 如果今晚没下雨，我们将会在院子里面烤肉。好，那我们再造一个例句。You can have ice cream if you finish your veggies. 如果你把青菜吃完，就可以吃冰淇淋咯。好，另外主要子句的部分，我们其实也可以用祈使句表达，所以这时候它的句型就是 if 主词加动词，逗号祈使句。例如 If you feel sleepy, go take a nap. 如果你觉得想睡觉的话，那你就去小睡一下吧 Go take a nap. 好，然后我们最后再补充一个句型是 if 主词加动词，逗号主词加动词。当这个 if 子句和主要子句的动词都用现在简单式来表达的话，这样的句型通常是在陈述事实或是陈述一个普遍法则，像是习惯性的活动或者是你可以预见的情况。例如 The ground gets wet if it rains. 如果下雨，地上会湿湿的。好，那这时候呢 if 的意思就会跟 when 差不多，你就可以说 The ground gets wet when it rains. 当下雨的时候，这个地上就会湿湿的嘛，这是可以预见的情况。好，那么以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Celebrity. There were a lot of celebrities at last night's party. Recommend. Can you recommend a good book to me, please? Shave. Fred shaves his face every morning before he goes to work. Curly. Jennifer's hair is naturally curly, but she always straightens it.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoyed reading along with us. I am Roger.
I'm Helen.
See you next time.